Recently, I received my PhD from the Open University. I studied at the Faculty of Education as well as I am working at the Faculty of Education as a senior lecturer. Actually, I started my career as a foundation learner at Open University.
Open University of Sri Lanka provides best learning programs in the field of education. All programs are highly recognized in Sri Lanka and also they are high demand worldwide.
I highly appreciate the Faculty of Education of the Open University of Sri Lanka because of the knowledge and practical skills I gained that were very useful for the development of my career. Many of our teachers also benefited from the Faculty of Education of the Open University of Sri Lanka.
I selected the Faculty of Education at the Open University of Sri Lanka because it has a flexible teaching learning environment.
I selected the Faculty of Education at the Open University of Sri Lanka because its programs are cost effective.
The knowledge and the practical experience which I gained from the Diploma in Early Childhood and Primary Education program enriched my role as a preschool teacher. It helped me to enhance the quality of the teaching learning process in my working career.
I am a gold medalist in postgraduate diploma in special needs education. I am currently studying the Master of Education degree program conducted by the Faculty of Education. This is the only institution available in the Sri Lankan university system in relation to special needs education.
I could obtain my master's degree with my busy schedule due to the flexible course delivery methods and the immense support of the staff of the Faculty of Education. It was very useful for my career development. Many of my colleagues in this department of examinations had obtained their master's degree from the Faculty of Education.
The Open University of Sri Lanka always tries to adopt new teaching strategies in the field of education to give you the best learning experience at the university.
Supportive academic and non-academic staff, high quality course materials, interactive contact sessions, both on-site and online, facilitative and conducive learning environment and various kind of assessments are really encouraging.
Are you interested in studying and getting knowledge in the field of education?
The Faculty of Education of the Open University of Sri Lanka is the ideal place to obtain an academic qualifications in the field of education.
There is a good ladder at the Open University. You can start your career from the foundation level and you can reach to the PhD level.
This is the best place for you to achieve your dreams.
Very good evening to you all. I cordially welcome all of you to the International Open University Research Session 2022. This is the parallel session for the theme education. Our session chair is Professor Shaminda Vanasinghe, the head Department of Secondary and Tertiary Education, Faculty of Education, Open University of Sri Lanka. Very good evening to you all. I cordially welcome all of you to the International Open University Research Session 2022. This is the parallel session for the theme education. Our session chair is Professor Shaminda Vanasinghe, the head Department of Secondary and Tertiary Education, Faculty of Education. There are 8 papers to be presented during this parallel session. While congratulating all the authors, I am handing over the session to our session chair, Professor Vanasinghe. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you very much, Dr. Vajira. Today we are conducting theme education, last parallel sessions, International Open University Research Sessions. Today we have 8 presenters. There are so many themes under the education themes. Today we are going to discuss. I noticed that presentations, there are assessment, COVID-19 pandemic, child rights, primary education, preschool education, and special need education also. They cover that areas. All presentations, 15 minutes, recorded time 15 minutes. After that, we have 15 minutes for question and answers. All presenters, please mute your microphone when the playing the recorded your presentation. After question and answer sections, you can mute on your switch, and camera also you can switch on. Other present audience also, please mute your microphones. If you want to ask any questions or comments, you can unmute your microphone and you can answer the questions or comments. Okay, I think we will not take much time. We have to start the presentation. First presentation, presenter is RNP Ratnayaka and C1 Nigama. ID number 83, internal consistency, reliability of responses of students on formative assessment, practice and student related factors. Yes, right, Nani Ratnayaka, that is your time.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Naini Ratnayaka from the Faculty of Education, the Open University of Sri Lanka. This study is about internal consistency reliability of responses of students on formative assessment practices and student-related factors. Background of the study. Many data collection techniques are used by quantitative researchers to obtain data from respondents for various studies. A questionnaire is considered to be the most widely used technique to collect data for quantitative studies. Measuring validity and trustworthiness of the instruments prepared for collecting data is very essential for both quantitative and qualitative research. There are many quantitative data reliability procedures used in quantitative research, such as stability, equivalence, and internal consistency. Therefore, internal consistency reliability is considered to be the most frequent method used to measure the reliability of a scale. Thus, this study aimed to assess the internal consistency reliability of the responses of students to the items of the instrument prepared on formative assessment practices. Formative assessment practices. Assessment provides more information on students' learning, and assessment is still the most important factor in formal education, as it has a more noticeable effect on students' learning and their performance. Formative assessment focuses on the quality of learning process. According to the Council of Chief State School Officers in 2018, formative assessment is a planned, continuous process used by teachers and students during the teaching-learning process to elicit evidence of students' learning, improve students' understanding of the proposed learning objectives, and support students to become self-directed learners. There are various key strategies for formative assessment that have been presented by different researchers through their findings, and these practices can be incorporated in a formative assessment classroom to empower teachers as well as students to achieve the required outcomes of assessment process. The success of the implementation of formative assessment depends on factors related to students. Literature emphasized the factors such as large class size, lack of time, the complexity of assessment tools, lack of administrative support, number of students of them as the major factors that hinder the practices of implementing formative assessment. Internal consistency reliability. As mentioned previously, reliability and validity of a scale are two important qualities used in empirical research. A valid, reliable, and practical instrument is needed to collect the data from the participants of the study. Though there are many ways of estimating reliability, internal consistency reliability is considered to be a measure based on the correlations between different items on the same test. According to American Psychological Association 2022, internal consistency is introduced as the degree of interrelationship or similarity between the items on a scale such that they are consistent with one another and measure the same thing. Researchers use Cronbach alpha coefficient for establishing scale reliability. Cronbach alpha coefficient is an indicator of the internal consistency of the scale. In this study, the internal consistency reliability was measured and Cronbach alpha was used to measure the scale. Current literature indicates that the acceptable values of Cronbach alpha range from 0.70 to 0.95. Tabler provides the following rule of thumb for Cronbach alpha values. In this study, the Cronbach alpha was calculated to determine the internal consistency reliability of the scale in relation to the student questionnaire. Research objectives of the study. The main objective of this research is to assess the internal consistency reliability of the responses of students to the items of the instrument prepared for formative assessment practices implemented by teachers and student-related factors that affect formative assessment practices in the classroom. Research methodology of the study. A quantitative methodology was used and data was analyzed using SPSS. Sample of the study. There were 38 students from 1C school and 22 students from Type 2 school in Kalutara district. Subconstructs measured by the instrument. Data collection instruments were prepared to collect data to investigate students' attitudes related to the implementation of formative assessment practices in the actual teaching learning environment and identify student-related factors that are affected by the successful implementation of formative assessment in the classroom. The questionnaire was designed as a structured type, and this questionnaire was categorized into two different sections. The first part consists of 36 items under 4 subconstructs. Accordingly, the first part of the questionnaire, 4 subconstructs related to the formative assessment practices are providing clear learning targets and success criteria, collecting evidence of learning through various forms of assessment, providing descriptive and constructive feedback on student performance, and using self and peer assessment. The second part of the questionnaire consists of 6 subconstructs which related to the student-related factors. They are student interest, student motivation, time to complete work assigned by the teacher, classroom condition, peer assistance, and parent assistance. There are 78 items under these 6 subconstructs. Findings and discussions of the study. In this study, 60 questionnaires were distributed to students in grade 8 and 10 in 1C and Type 2 schools in Kalutara district. Of these, 38 students responded from the 1C school, while 22 students responded from the Type 2 school. As explained in the previous section, each factor's internal consistency was measured using Cronbach alpha, and the results are presented in this table. According to this table, there are 6 items under the first subconstruct, 12 items under the second subconstruct, another 12 items under the third subconstruct, and 6 items under the fourth subconstruct. The above subconstructs under the first construct demonstrated a Cronbach alpha of greater than 0.84. According to Tabler 2017, this is within the range of 0.84 to 0.90, which is considered to be a reliable value. This table also shows that there are 78 items under the 6 subconstruct of the student-related factors. According to this table, the third, fourth, and sixth subconstructs maintained the Cronbach alpha value of 0.85, which is also within the range of 0.84 to 0.90, which are reliable values according to Tabler. Based on the results, all the items under each subconstructs were measuring the same thing, since it indicates that Cronbach coefficient alpha values were relatively consistent and not showing any significant deviation of the values. Therefore, the findings of this study shows that the instrument is reliable for continuing the pursuit of collecting data. These are the references of the study. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Naini Ratnayake. I think this presentation based on formative assessment tools, we know the formative assessment is developing quality of the teaching and learning strategies. Yes, now open the forum for the question and answer.
Nine. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes, Dr. Munasri.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, your presentation, you and your Vandigama, you have done a very good presentation. Thank you very much. And I want to know why you are limited to 1C and type 2 schools only. You have your sample. You are not considered the 1AB, no? Is that any?
Madam, my sample is randomly, there were only randomly selected participants from only 1C and type 2, madam.
Okay, that's it.
Yes,
Right.
Ms. Naini, I also same questions. Again,
Yes.
I ask why you are not selecting 1AB school for your selection? Why you avoid the 1AB schools?
Yeah.
I didn't use proportionally stratified samples, just randomly selected participants were there. Therefore, I use only the 1AB and 1C school. But I can in further research, I can use type 1AB also.
Yes. Okay, any questions?
Yes, Nayani, one question. This is a very good study. I just want to know whether this is already, existing scale, or did you develop this scale?
I developed this. Yeah.
And how many subscales are there?
There are two parts: formative assessment practices and student-related factors. Under the formative assessment practices, there are 36 items. Under the
all the sub-scales, you got that
114. There are 114 items altogether.
All the sub-scales, you got the reliability, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then did you delete some items to maintain the internal consistency, to maintain the reliability?
No, not with the reliability. I conducted the exploratory factor analysis also. It is not included this one.
Anyway, without deleting any item, you were able to maintain the reliability, right?
Not from the reliabilities, not assessing the reliability. All the subscales are I have got the reliable values as reliable values.
Okay. Any other questions? If there are not any questions, we will conclude this presentation. Thank you, Ms. Naini Ratnayake and Dr. Vanigama. Your presentation is very interesting. And thank you very much again, on behalf of the IOURS.
Thank you, sir.
Now we will move to the second presentation, ID number 89. The use of social media by undergraduates for academic purpose during the COVID-19 pandemic with special reference to the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. Presenter is SDA Sumanapala. Ms. Sumanapala, now yours time.
Hello everyone, I am Diniti Amasha from Department of Social Statistics, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Kerala. I have conducted research regarding the use of social media by undergraduates for academic purposes during the COVID-19 pandemic, with special reference to the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. So let me take it to the content of my study. Background of my study, research problem, research objective, methodology, results and discussions, conclusion and recommendation, and references. Then moving on to the background of the study. The importance of information has been increasing instead of belief with the increasing use computing applications with the technological revolutions taking place around the world. Social media has a computer-based technology that facilitates the sharing of ideas, truth, and information through the building of virtual network and communities. So, social media has become a well-known term today, especially with the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic situation. Currently, 15% of the global users of Facebook are between the age of 18 to 44 years and 25 and 34 years. These age groups consist of the population engaged in university, schools, colleges, and academic institutions. So, are attached to professionals that involve academic activities. And also, according to the table 1, continuous increase of Facebook users has been from 2019 to 2021. Social media is becoming a dominant part of many people's lives today, as it is a quicker way to know about anything they need at any time. Social media has become a vital and integrate part of modern society, providing transmedia skills for education and learning benefits. So, according to the objective of the study is to identify the undergraduate behavior towards social media and technology, and to identify the use of Facebook on academic performance. It is important to model the advanced features, capabilities, use and processes of Facebook for educational activities. Next, moving on to the methodology of the study. This study was conducted at the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. Secondary data and primary data were also used in data collecting for this study. The questionnaire method was used to collect data from undergraduates of the Faculty of Social Sciences at the University of Kelaniya. There were 215 responded to the questionnaire. The questionnaire was shared as a Google form that was sent to student groups and through Facebook. The survey was made available for undergraduate for 1 month. And also reliability was tested by using Commerce alpha values for each factors as well. And tables, graphs, and charts were used to present the data which was analyzed using SPS statistics. And also figure 1 shows the conceptual framework of the study. Then moving on to the result and discussions. According to the results of the study, figure 2 shows the gender competitions of the study contents, while 83.7% were females and 16.3% were males. A majority of those who use it at least once every day, while almost all use it at least once every month. Moreover, all respondents indicated they use Facebook to some extent. At the same time, the majority of undergraduate used Facebook for 10 to 10 minutes and 1 to 2 hours per day, which was recorded as 30.1% and 29.4% respectively. Accordingly, the figures 2 seems that 71.9% of undergraduates believe that Facebook is useful in educational activities as well. Then table 2 shows the results of the reliability analysis using Compass alpha values, which were calculated for the latest variables. So personal activities, educational activities, and communication activities have 0.824, 0.839 and 0.889 Compass alpha values respectively. Therefore, these factors have an advantage between the items in the scale. Social interaction has 0.589 Compass alpha value with acceptable internal consistency, and in relating to academic performance has 0.771 and 0.781, 0.772 and 0.781 Compass alpha value with acceptable internal consistency. The overall model has an Compass alpha internal consistency with 0.844 Compass values. And also, the regression analysis was conducted to determine the use of Facebook for academic performance consumption of the sample respondents. The table 3 shows the relationship among the use of Facebook and other variables as below. The correlation table shows there is a most significant strong positive correlation between use of Facebook and entertainment, and can identify significant strong positive correlation among the use of Facebook and educational activities communications. and there is a significant weak positive correlation among the use of Facebook and personal activities, social interaction, work relation activities. Then moving on to the conclusion and recommendation. This study intended to examine the impact of the use of social media on the academic performance of undergraduate students. The results of the study revealed that most of the students are addicted to the use of social media for the purposes of non-educational purposes, and the time they are spent on social media on entertainment activities rather than educational activities has increased. Further, respondents confirmed that most of them strongly believe that all the information on social media is true and reliable, and that social media does not support the learning. As well, it seems that Facebook is not used as an educational resource but as a platform for entertainment. And Facebook cannot be considered a tool for educational because it is highly recommended for entertainment purposes. And however, the result indicate that the undergraduate performance for Facebook is like to entertainment. The results suggest Facebook use for educational purposes when almost all the undergraduates prefer Facebook as a social media, which can be led to generalizing the use of Facebook in further use educational practice. Finally, the study suggests having formal changes begin to the educational system that can move toward Facebook being user resources with following recommendations. Also, professionals in all fields get together via Facebook and create forums not in the form of text but in the form of videos, audios, images, etc. Allowing undergraduates to ask questions, contribute to the discussions, and comments forums are some ways of using Facebook for educational purposes. Similarly, allowing students creativity, experimented, and entertainment on the platform may enrich the process of attending academic goals through the Facebook platforms. Then you can see the references list in my study like this. So this is about our research conducted and open the questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Diniti Amasha, for your presentation. That is very interesting. These days, Facebook is a very popular for the entertainment, like you said that. But my problem is I want to ask one questions. According to the your results, most of responded, 76 responded not using your Facebook for the academic purpose. Can you identify the reason? What is the reason for that? Yes, Diniti Amasha.
Yes, sir. Repeat.
Yes, I refer to that use of Facebook for education. 76% sent no. What is the reason? Did you identify that?
Yes, a questionnaire basement. One question used of a Facebook for education in my questionnaire. A Google Form.
Right. Okay. Any other questions, audience? Now is open for you.
Dinity, this is only comments that your presentation is very good. You can do more research later in further, I think. That's very good presentation.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I also feel that we have to motivate the students to use Facebook for educational purposes without using the other purposes. It is good to promote. This is a very good study. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gogamoti.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, if there are any questions, we will conclude this presentation. Again, thank you, Diniti Amasha, your presentation. Thank you. Then we will move the next presentation. The presenter is Dr. S.N. Jayasinghe. ID number is 97. Topic is implementation of right to participation at senior secondary schools in Sri Lanka.
Implementation of right to Title of my research study is Implementation of Right to Participation at Senior Secondary Schools in Sri Lanka. This presentation consists of introduction, literature review, methodology, results, conclusion and recommendation. Policies of children's rights have evolved over several decades. In 1924, the Geneva Declaration on the Rights of the Child, 1959, the UN Declaration on the Rights of the Child, the United Nations promulgated the Declaration of the Rights of the Child are some of the significant achievements. UN General Assembly adopted the Convention and opened it for signature on 20th November 1989. Sri Lanka ratified the UNCRC on 12 July 1990. UNCRC identified three broad types of rights, that is, protection rights, provision rights, and participation rights. The UNCRC has provided a framework that gives special significance to the idea that children have a right to participate in all matters that affect their lives. The participation rights appears in Articles 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 31 and 40. Hart 1992 defines participation as a process of sharing decisions that affect one's life and the life of the community. T1 has found that in a parent-led service, the implication of this convention was limited among teachers and parents due to their low-level awareness of UNCRC. Main objective of my research study is to assess whether the students' right to participation as specified in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is implemented in the selected senior secondary school setting. To determine how the right to participation was being implemented in the teaching and learning process, in co-curricular activities and school administration is my specific objective. Based on this specific objective, 3 research questionnaires were prepared. That is, to what extent is the expectation of the right to participation implemented in the teaching learning process of the selected schools? To what extent is the right to participation implemented in the co-curricular activities? And how far is the right to participation considered by the school administration in the syllabus? A survey design was used for this study. The overall sample included 692 grade 10 and 11 students, 36 grade 10 and 11 class teachers, and 18 principals from the Western, North Central, and Central provinces. Purposive sampling methods used for this study, and the data collected through students and teachers questionnaires, classroom observation, principal interview, and student focus group discussion. The quantitative data were analysis using descriptive statistical analysis. Thematic analysis was used for the analysis of qualitative data. Senior secondary students pointed out that the right to express an opinion, Article 12, and freedom of thought, Article 14, were not adequately implemented in the classroom, while freedom of expression was moderately implemented in the teaching learning process. In addition, as illustrated in Table 1, the right to freedom of association, Article 15, was poorly promoted by the teachers, and the right to protection of privacy, Article 16, was satisfactory in the classroom environment. The data revealed in the student focus group discussion on the teaching learning process in the classroom, majority of students noted that when the teacher asks questions during the lesson, we answer. In some subjects, our ideas are not presented. According to the classroom observation, research identified that during the teaching learning process, 94% the teacher talked and students listened. Majority of principals mentioned regarding teaching learning process, both teachers and students prefer to complete the O-level syllabus. Students have less opportunity and they are weak in taking decisions and expressing their opinion. But three principals in the study stated that eliciting questions from students is needed. Teachers' role is insufficient. If they become close to students, then now they will express their opinion. Based on the teacher's point of view, freedom of expression, Article 13, freedom of thought, Article 14, and access of information, Article 17, were moderately implemented. According to the principle, both teachers and students are engaged to complete the syllabus, and students are weak in expressing their opinion and decisions in the teaching learning process. Further, principal suggested that eliciting questions from the student is needed to ensure the right to participate in the classroom. Majority of principals mentioned regarding teaching learning process at the interview. Both teachers and students prepare to complete the O-level syllabus. Students have less opportunity and they are weak in taking decisions and expressing their opinion. Responses on implementation of right to participation in the co-curricular activity. It was indicated that the majority of 92.3% students had not directly participated in the societal activities, and only 7.6 have held positions as the president, secretary, and treasurer, but some students participate in the sport and games. The findings revealed that the Article 12, Article 15 is poorly promoted in co-curricular activities, but teachers seem to encourage students to participate in co-curricular activities. The finding of students' focus group discussion on co-curricular activities. Majority of students realized the importance of the co-curricular activities. They stated that in our school there are facilities available for sports and games, but small number of students are participating in them. We don't have enough time for extracurricular activities due to the O-level examination and tuition. Most of the principals interviewed said there is no follow-up of 2016 circular, which came under the project name The Nearest School is the Best School. Students' participation is less in co-curricular activities. There are economic problems as well. How can we work according to the 2016 circular when O-level examination results are given priority? Furthermore, the principal stated that the student density is high in Type 1 AB schools. Everybody cannot participate in the society activities, and there is no follow-up of the 2016 circular, as I mentioned earlier. In this research, it was found that senior secondary students were not involved in the decision-making process in the school administration. Majority of students mentioned that we don't engage in administration activities. It is better if our ideas are inquired when appointing the head prefect. At least, prefects must be allowed to express their ideas. There's nothing like that at present. The responses received for the item on getting student assistance in school administration was 36%, and the students' responses to the item students' ideas are considered in school administration also 33.1% were in a relatively low range. In relation to the item, listen to the students' request in school administration, most teachers responded that they were listening to the students' request. 47.2% of the teachers responded positively to the item except students' correct decision in school administration. The principals also stated that the school administration does not take the children's opinion into account. Majority stated that in our schools, grade 10 and 11 students' participation in school administration seems very low, but prefects have been given opportunity to engage. Events like Teachers' Day, Vesak Lantern display, according to their willingness and ideas. Overall, the students, teachers, as well as principals in this study were of the opinion that school administration is a responsibility of principal, deputy principals, sectional heads, and grade heads. Conclusion of my research study. It can be concluded that in the teaching learning process of the selected schools, the students, teachers, and principals act without being aware of the participation rights of children. The senior secondary students from the selected sample were given average opportunities from schools to express ideas and accumulate their decisions in co-curricular activities. Further, it can be concluded that participation of senior secondary students in school administration remains at a very low level. Recommendations of my research study. The organization of the teaching learning process in the classroom putting the students at the center. Preparing teachers' guides to allow students to express their ideas and updating the current teaching learning process to allow students to express their ideas. Reducing the workload of grade 10 and 11 students and restructuring the present curriculum for students to gain not only theoretical knowledge but also practical experience. Making principal and teachers aware of the benefits of encouraging the facilitating students' engagement in co-curricular activities. Follow up the circular 2016 which mentions that students should compulsorily engage in 2 sports and 2 societies. Providing more opportunities for senior secondary students to express their opinions and ideas on school administration and empowering student parliament in every school so that a student can express their opinion on school issues, administration and solutions. This is my references and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samanthi. I think these days participation right is more important to us because we know more than 10% students, they are not entering the school also. After entering the school also, most of teachers are teaching more clever students. They are neglecting weak students. Therefore, I think this research is very important to us. That recommendation we can implement in the school level. It is very good for the students keep their right as a participant right. Yes. Okay. Now is open the forum for the question and answer. When you are asking the questions, please switch on your video. Dr. Samanthi also can switch on your video and answer.
Yeah. Samanthi. Okay.
Yes, Mr.
Good
Virakon.
afternoon. Yeah, thank you, Professor Panasina. Now, small clarifications about Dr. Jaising's presentation. According to the sampling method, you have mentioned that you have adopted the purposive sampling method. Can you give a small clarification why you selected that purposive sampling method? Nearly you have selected 672 students for this study. Purposive sampling, what is the purpose you?
Yes, Mr. Virakon. Actually, I selected the Western Province, Central Province, and the North Central Province based on the rural, urban, and the estate student I selected. That is the purpose, to check whether. And also 1AB, 1C, and Type 2 schools I selected for the study.
Okay, thank you. Then my second question is my suggestion actually now regarding, I noted that your recommendations, that is very important recommendations. Do you think now that we need some curriculum reforms for the general education sector, especially my suggestion is we have to link the co-curricular activities with the regular curriculum, then the student participation will increase. What is your idea about that? Problem is we never, time to time, we notice that we never link the co-curricular activities with the regular curriculum of the school. That
Yes,
is one of the issues.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Meerapon. I want to mention that this is one objective of my PhD research study.
Yeah.
There I have identified many recommendations and suggestions, especially based on the right to participation. There I have mentioned the right to participation means not only the participation. Students have a right to express their ideas, not only in the teaching learning process at the classroom, but also in the co-curricular activities and the administration. And also they have a right to take decision. That's why in our Sri Lankan curricula, there is a gap between the participation, right to participation. So there are many suggestions I have made in my PhD study, and also I prepared guidelines for the students, teachers, as well as principals, and also for the policymakers. And our especially senior secondary curriculum is exam oriented, and curriculum is full of subjects, and students do not have time to engage in the co-curricular activities. But in 2016 circular, it has mentioned student has to participate in co-curricular activities, especially they have to engage in the two societies, they have to engage in two sports, but it is not perfectly implemented in the Sri Lankan schools. I think we have to take good implementations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
Dr.
very
Samanthi,
much. Yeah, thank you very much, and congratulations for your presentation. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
Dr.
thank you, Mr.
Samanthi.
Virakon.
Shall I ask Dr. Samanthi, actually, thank you very much for your presentation. This is not a comment or this is not a question. I am requesting actually in the digital learning environment. Now, I think we need to revisit the right to participation, because we all are talking about the digital learning, online learning, and all the aspects, because we are expecting that students want to engage through the online learning environment. That is the questionable whether all the students are receiving the right to participation in the digital learning environment. Therefore, I think you can continue some other research related to right to participation in the digital teaching learning processes. That is a request.
Okay, madam.
Thank you, Professor Kogamurthy.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Ruanti.
Yes, this is a very good study. I just want to know whether did you, study that gender-wise differences in right to participation?
No, I have not gender. Actually, the sample consists of 692. Nearly 50% of male and female students were there, but I randomly selected the students. I have not think about the gender-wise.
Okay, and one more thing that I think your sampling technique is stratified random sampling.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Samanthi?
Yeah.
Then your main focus was co-curricular activities. Then I want to know whether there is a special main reason for the selecting co-curricular activities without selecting main curricula?
No, because I have selected how right to participation implement in the teaching learning process. That means the curricula. Within the curricula and with the co-curricula and the administration. I have gone through 3 parts with the curricula. That's why I mentioned the teaching learning process.
You are not focusing on the main curricula. Is it correct?
No,
only co-curricular activities.
No. May focus on the curricula also.
Yeah.
But I have mentioned the teaching learning process.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
There are any questions? Yes, Dr. Samanthi, as I know, I think there is no any problem to right to participation. There are enough rooms to participate in the secondary school and primary school also. But problem is students are not engaged with that right. According to your findings, co-curricular activities, they are not engaging. The circular says they have to do 2 sports and 2 societies, but most of the students are not engaged with them. What are your suggestions? What are your recommendations for minimize that problems?
Yes, one thing is students, they think about, especially the senior secondary students, O-level and also the A-level students, they think about the exams. They want to pass the exams. Even the school side, they also want to get the high rate, and they need to pass the examination without thinking about the participation. From the examination, we can collect the hard skills, that is teachable skills. But through right to participation, when they are participation in co-curricular activities, even in the classroom, the teaching learning process, they gain more soft skills. The 21st century learners, we have to improve their 4 C's: communication skills, creativity skills. So I think the time has come to rethink about our exam-oriented O-levels and A-levels syllabus. And I think the time has come to change our curriculum and the exam processes, and then students get a chance to participate in co-curricular activities, even in the curricula in the teaching learning process. They can participate. That means the child, they have the right to express their ideas, and also they have the right to take decision, especially affect their life. So I think
okay, thank you, Dr. Samanthi. Thank you. Congratulations for you. Thank you for your presentation. Okay. Then we will move next presentation. That is a group presentation. R.A.D.D. Kumari, T. Mukundan, M. Munasinghe, ID Dediyawala, D. Jesuya, S. Jayatilaka. ID number is 99. Topic is the impact of student perception of online examination with special references to the level 3 final examination of the Bachelor of Education honors in the primary education degree program. Now your time.
Good afternoon to all. This presentation is about the impact of students' perceptions of online examinations with special reference to the level 3 final examination of the Bachelor of Education honors in the primary education degree program, presented by RAD Deepthi Kumari. Overview of the presentation. Introduction, objectives of the study, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, and references. Let's move on to the introduction slide. The impact of students' perceptions of online examinations. According to Livari, Sharma, and Venter, during the COVID-19 pandemic, traditional classroom teaching learning methods were replaced with online teaching learning using digital platforms. Additionally, the advancement of network technology policies has made it possible to take exams online. Online examinations are useful to evaluate students' knowledge using modern computer technology without impacting the traditional university examinations. According to Dermo in 2009, it is crucial to examine students' perceptions of this mode as online examinations become a significant assessment technique in online learning. Also, Al-Musharraf and Kaharo in 2020 study reflected that students were highly satisfied with online teaching learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. The current study is based on the impact of students' perceptions of online examination covering the level 3 final examination of the Bachelor of Education honors in primary education degree program. The main objective of this study was to understand students' perceptions of online examinations. Specific objectives are to reveal the impact of students' competence in using computers, to find out the impact of prior experience of the students for online examination, to reveal the impact of students' perceptions of the user interface of the online examination, to reveal the impact of students' perception of the system used on the online examination, to find out the impact of students' opinion on the online examination. The research design was quantitative approach using the survey design. The population was the students who were following the Bachelor of Education in Primary Education degree program at the Open University of Sri Lanka. The convenient sampling method was adopted in this study. Data collection method. The primary data was collected using a structured questionnaire through a Google form which was administered via email and social media. The questionnaire was sent to the entire population and 205 responded. The structured questionnaire was designed with a 5-point Likert scale to measure variables. Reliability was tested with Cronbach's alpha. The data was analyzed and presented using descriptive statistics, Pearson's correlation, coefficient analysis, and regression analysis. SPSS 21 and 23 versions were used. Reliability of the questionnaire. The reliability was tested with Cronbach's alpha. The reliability level were satisfactory and mostly exceeded the conventional acceptance level of the coefficient, that is 0.70. The study findings were interpreted based on the responses with a mean close to 4. The ratings show a 5-point scale where 5 strongly agree, 4 agree, 3 neither agree or disagree, 2 disagree, and 1 strongly disagree. Regression analysis used to find the impact of each student's perception of online examinations. It is identified that student perceptions on online examination were significant at 0.000, which is less than the significance level of 5%. As a result, this study proved that there is a significant impact on student perception of online exams. According to the results of the regression analysis, fitted model R square equal 0.588 and describes 58.8 of the variance in student perception on the online exam. It revealed that student perception has high impact on online exam. Correlation. According to the correlation analysis, there is a positive and significant relationship between student perception and online exams. Discussion. Based on the results, the relationship between students' competence with computers and students' perception is positive. Student competence with computers has a 0.623 correlation. Thus, when students' competence with computers is high, their perceptions of online exams is high. The relationship between students' competence with computers and students' perception is significant because the p-value 0.00 is less than the alpha. Therefore, the relationship between students' competence with computers and students' perception is moderate. Moreover, the level of the student's prior experience with computers has a 0.512 correlation. Students' perception of the user interface of the online examination is positive. Therefore, the relationship between the level of students' prior experience with computers and students' perception of the user interface of the online examination is moderate. Student perceptions of the system used on the online examination are positive. The positive value of the correlation coefficient is 0.758. So, the relationship between students' perceptions and the system used on the online examination is high. Conclusion. This study highlights students' perceptions of online examinations at the Open University of Sri Lanka. This study concludes that the majority of students have appreciated online examinations. Students have a high competence with computers and low prior experience with online examinations, while students' perception of the user interface of the online examination was positive. Although students were given mock examinations before the exam, downloading the question paper and uploading the answer script was indicated as a difficult experience. Some students were nervous during the examinations. Students must be familiar with the online examination interface to avoid such issues. The finding of this study emphasized that an improved online learning environment is good for examinations. References, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kumari. Thank you for your presentation. I think it is very important because during time we already practiced that online examination, not only written examination. We conducted the teaching practice supervision also. Then we have enough experience. I want to know, most of the students' perception is, according to your conclusion, most of the students' perception is very high for the online examination. Did you find out the reason for that?
Yes, we discussed with the students. They like to complete their program quickly, without delay. They are undergraduate students. This is age for them. They are settled in their life. Therefore, those students, they don't delay their courses. They like to complete it. In the pandemic situation, we conduct the exams. With the curfew time also, one day we conduct. That's the reason they like that exam model.
And,
Thank you, Dr. Mukundan.
Yes. And another point is they don't want to come to the centers. They can stay there in their places, and they can do they can answer their questions. That's another point we identified.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Munasinghe. Any other questions? Any other questions?
I have a question. So, did you encounter the copying, like writing a different person for the examination, like impersonation, such issues? Have you, asked some tricky questions, like not related questions to tackle whether that has contributed the likelihoodness for this online examination?
Actually, I can. Yes, Dr. Mundan, you tell.
Most of the question not related to the knowledge. Most of the question in the application pattern. Therefore, the student they can copy. We could not identify the copy. Application model, each student had a different their own way and comprehension part. Not related to anything theory or those things. We did not directly ask.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mukundan and team. We will conclude your presentation. We will move the next presentation, ID number 125, the authentic learning approach in the teaching learning process, an overview based on a systematic review approach. Presenters WMAPS Pranandu, PGOS Pitadeniya. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Oshani Pitadeniya from Department of Secondary and Tertiary Education, Faculty of Education, Open University. Myself and Ms. Purnima Fernando from same department have conducted the research regarding the authentic learning approach in the teaching learning process as an overview based on a systematic review approach. In our research, we have widely discussed about authentic learning and how it used in the teaching learning process. So let's move to the content. In our content, we have categorized into a few sections: introduction to the research problem, methodology of the research, results and discussion, conclusion, recommendations, and references. Now I'm going to give a brief introduction to our research problem. As you all know, learning is a gradual process that all organisms, including people and animals, go through. A child's development is influenced by what they learn and the learning styles that are followed. There are some learning styles that have been used in the classroom for ages. Currently, educators are much more focused on teaching and learning with real life experiences rather than traditional learning styles. This authentic learning is a pedagogical approach that allows students to explore, discuss, and meaningfully construct concepts and relationships in contexts that involve real-world problems. When using this authentic learning approach in the teaching learning process, the teacher has to act as a facilitator and provide all-encompassing arrangements, involvements to build knowledge and sharpen aptitudes of students. By using this learning method, students will be more engaged in what they're learning and more motivated to master new concepts and skills. And teacher must continuously think of ways to include creativity, basic consideration, collaboration, and communication into the classroom. In my next slide, I would like to emphasize about methodology of this research. This study adopted a semi-systematic review approach and mainly focused on research articles that investigate about the authentic learning approach. And literature review includes virtual appraisals of key sources and provides the basis for building a new conceptual model or theory. Most of the literature was published in online journal and selected articles were read, and the findings following the reviewed literature are presented based on the research questions guiding the study. The qualitative analysis method was used and nearly 30 articles were read, reviewed, and selected based on the keywords related to this research. And results and conclusions addressed in each individual article provided insight into the main research theme covered, and the results of this study and the conclusion of the articles were reviewed in detail. Now I'm moving to the results and discussion. We have divided results and discussions into two sections: effects of authentic learning and challenges of implementing this authentic learning. When talking about the effects of authentic learning in the teaching learning process, Bhaskaran and Abdullah in 2021 emphasized that the best way to teach science is by using this method. Instructing and applying real-life illustration and hands-on learning to cultivate more profound understanding of logical concepts can be carried out through this authentic learning approach. And this can enhance problem-based learning, collaborative learning, and personal reflection and learning by stimulating real-world educational practices. And students have opportunity to interact with content, pedagogy, and meaningful student-centered learning. When talking about challenges of implementing this learning approach, teachers are frequently perceived as a lacking to share learning by doing instructions. Teachers appears to be struggling as they lack the required information, support and resources to support this new teaching and learning style. INAS and Aslan believe that teacher training must be provided to implement the authentic learning approaches successfully in school. And furthermore, they have emphasized that teacher training activities could be more beneficial when carried out for teachers who are on duty and for pre-service teacher candidates. Now, I'm going to give some recommendations and give a conclusion about this, about what we have talked so far. According to the findings of this research, it is concluded that authentic learning approach will be able to enhance the students' performance in the teaching learning process. Utilizing an authentic learning approach is the most effective way of teaching science, and it can be enhance students' problem-solving skills. The effective domain of students can be influenced by this learning approach, and it will be more useful to teachers when improving students' attitudinal skills. Further, providing authentic learning experiences in the classroom is very beneficial to students in terms of increasing higher critical thinking skills, working well with others, taking responsibility for their own learning. If we focused on effects of the authentic learning approach in the teaching learning process, it is more in line with modern teaching methods while being able to provide a more meaningful learning environment for students. Students will be able to participate in projects and activities that will require them to apply knowledge, and they have learned to address real-world problems using this learning approach. The challenges of using this authentic learning approach in the teaching learning process include the findings that implementing authentic assignments in the classroom is more difficult. It is concluded that teachers are frequently thought to be unable to deliver teaching that encourages learning by doing. And some researchers point out that there's a need to equip teachers with ample knowledge on planning, designing, and implementing authentic assessments in the classroom. The findings of this research indicated that some teachers don't have enough knowledge about this learning approach. Therefore, the study recommends that enough training and guidance must be provided to teachers to use this authentic learning approach. So these are the references we use for our research. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Oshani. I think we are talking 21st century skills more time, long time we talking about that, but still we couldn't reach the appropriate level because the Minister of Education also these days trying to implement in new educational reforms based on authentic learning approaches. So I think this your research is very important to others also. We can learn a lot of things according to the authentic learning approaches about. So it is very good for me. I open the forum for the question and answers.
Okay, Purnima and Oshani, actually it's a very good topic because as the educators in ODL system, we also discussing about this one, how we can integrate the authentic learning experiences as much as possible. So I want to know whether you found out any data regarding the attitudes of the teachers towards this process. I mean, whether they like or reluctant
to integrate this type of learning experiences into their teaching learning process?
Actually, madam, according to our research findings, we could find only few interest. Most of them are actually negative perspectives, because due to lack of the training, they didn't have knowledge to implement this learning approach, and also due to their heavy workload, they are unable to allocate the time for this. That were the problems they have faced, because their ultimate purpose was covering the syllabus.
Okay, thank you.
As Osani, you said most of the students are not awareness or not a good attitude for the authentic learning approaches. When we are moderating our teacher training programs, what are your suggestions? What we can do?
Actually, sir, we think in our B.Ed programs or the teacher training programs, we can implement this learning approach and enhance their skill regarding this learning approach, how they can implement this learning approach in their teaching learning skills, because we know in our students also, when they are planning their lessons, they did not much concentrate about the student
authentic learning.
Yes. So we have to give proper training to these candidates to implement this authentic learning.
Okay, thank you, Purnima. Any other questions?
Not the question, but I want to say that not only the teaching learning process, but also when we are preparing the assignments to the students, we also can use the authentic learning approach.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Samanthi. Okay, thank you, Ms. Purnima and Ms. Osani. Thank you for your presentation. We will move the next presentation. ID number 142, presenter K.A.D. Sandamali. Assessing the public speaking skills of virtual ESL learning using alternative assessment strategies. Ms. Sandamali, over to you.
Good afternoon, the chairperson and the researchers. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Dulashani Sandamali, affiliated to the Department of Secondary and Tertiary Education, Faculty of Education, the Open University of Sri Lanka. It's a great pleasure for me to share my research experience with you today. This study focuses on assessing the public speaking skills of virtual ESL learners using alternative assessment strategies. The COVID-19 pandemic. Even though it was a health issue, it immensely affected the education as well. When it comes to assessing public speaking skills of the ESL learners in schools, various events were organized by the teachers of English before the COVID-19 pandemic. However, such conventional methods were disrupted with school closures due to the sudden outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, teachers were expected to find out alternative methods to practice and assess the public speaking skills of the learners in a virtual classroom. The alternative assessment strategies that are integrated with digital online tools can be implemented to fill the gap created by this COVID-19 pandemic. The main aim of this study is to look at how alternative assessment strategies can be implemented to assess public speaking skills of virtual ESL learners. 4 objectives were derived from the main aim. The first one is to identify the need of using alternative assessment strategies to assess public speaking skills in a virtual classroom, and then to plan an alternative assessment to assess public speaking skills in a virtual classroom, and to implement the planned alternative assessment. Finally, to assess the suitability of the implemented alternative assessment. The review of literature was organized under 3 key terms. First one is public speaking. According to Nikitana in 2011, public speaking is a process, an act in delivering speeches before an audience. Paradevanani in 2017 states that it trains the students to think critically, fine-tune verbal and non-verbal skills, and overcome the fear of public speaking. Then alternative assessments in online setting. Reeves in 2000 stated that there are 3 main strategies to integrate alternative assessments into online settings. They are cognitive assessment, performance assessment, and portfolio assessment. In this study, performance assessment was implemented, and also assessment for learning approach was utilized as the approach in this study. Gibbs et al. In 2000 state that this is an approach. Assessment for learning approach is to teaching and learning where feedback is used in the teaching process, allowing students or groups to redefine the task, further practice it, and move to the next stage by improving their performance. This is the methodology of this study. This is an action research with a sample of 15 ESL learners who were selected purposefully. Structured interviews, pre-test, and the alternative assessment, reflections of the learners, were the data collection tools, and results of the structured interviews and intervention and its results were analyzed qualitatively, while the marks of the pre-test and the post-test, it means the alternative assessment, were analyzed quantitatively. Structured interviews were conducted to identify the need of using alternative assessment strategies to assess public speaking skills in a virtual classroom. The data revealed that less attention is paid towards improving the public speaking skills of ESL learners in the virtual classroom. And also, the learners were not aware about the criteria that was used to allocate marks. No collaborative approach is used when engaging in the public speaking. And the ESL learners do not get an opportunity to reflect on their speeches and to understand their strengths and weaknesses. Especially the speech anxiety is high in the virtual classroom because the learners feel that their speeches are heard not only by their classmates but also the outsiders as they join the class from their homes. Finally, the connection loss and the network issues become a hindrance to the public speaking in a virtual classroom. Based on the analysis of data gathered through the structured interviews, an alternative assessment was planned, marks were allocated under each task, and criteria that was used to allocate marks were given to the students before starting the assignment. In the first task, Padlet was integrated as the digital online tool to have their draft of the speech. Then task 2 was introduced to them to motivate them to engage in the task until they deliver their speech. Then the learners had to evaluate the drafts of each of their friends, and based on the field evaluations, they had to moderate their draft or the description based on the comments and feedback from the peers. The final product of this alternative assessment is their speech in the virtual classroom. And finally, self-reflection on their speech and the process while practicing the speech was taken. This figure shows the marks received from the pretest and the alternative assessment. It depicts that the performance of the students is high in the alternative assessment. The reflective journal entries reveal that the students were able to understand their strengths and weaknesses of their speeches through this process. And also, alternative assessments can be implemented to assess the public speaking skills of the ESL learners while decreasing their speech anxiety, which negatively affects their personality. Most of the learners appreciated the collaborative approach, which was facilitated with Padlet. And also it was a new experience for them to work with Padlet, which involved commenting, rating, peer writing, and correcting them. Finally, the attractive interface, videos, and pictures motivated them to read and comment on the writing. According to their reflections, the alternative assessment itself motivated them to deliver the speech well. The results of this study can be summarized by saying alternative assessment strategies can be successfully implemented to assess the public speaking skills of the ESL learners in a virtual classroom. When the learners' capabilities are assessed through both process and product, they are able to understand their weaknesses and strengths as well as their values and beliefs related to public speaking. And also the alternative assessment. They are useful to decrease the speech anxiety in ESL learners as they get an opportunity to develop their speeches step by step until their final speech. Peer evaluation also played a major role in the success of alternative assessments for public speaking, as there is a collaborative, learner-friendly environment for the learners to engage in the assessment, even though they are in a virtual classroom. Finally, the various digital tools. Here I used Padlet. So various digital tools can be integrated with implementing alternative assessment strategies in virtual ESL classroom. Finally, it should be noted that the study included a small number of ESL learners and further research is needed with learners in various socioeconomical backgrounds and contexts to give a fuller understanding on how the public speaking skills of the ESL learners can be assessed using alternative assessment strategies. And also, this study shed light on future research to see how we can integrate digital online tools into the virtual environments even after the COVID-19 pandemic. These are the references I referred for this study, and thank you very much for listening to me.
Congratulations and thank you, Ms. Sandamali. I think this presentation is discuss about another area in the education sector, ESL, education for second language. That is there is another section for the education sector. I have one question, Sandamali. You said according to your research, use performance assessment. Why you selected performance assessment for this research?
Yes, yes, sir. First of all, excuse me for the background noise. And yes, because this is related to the speech. Speeches mean we have to perform something in front of an audience. So it should be a performance. It means the speeches and what they are doing is that is related to performance. That's why I use that performance assessment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Now is open the questions. Sandamali is waiting for your questions. She ready to answer. Okay, if there are no any questions, we will conclude the presentation. Thank you, Sandamali, for presentation.
Thank you very much, sir.
We will move the next presentation. This presentation also group presentation. K. Ketiswaran, S. Kugamurthy, KDRLJ Pereira, BGH Anuruddhika, HDC Piyadarshani, DMG Ranasingha, J. Jegno, KAC Alvis, A. Aryaratna. ID number 162, identification of gifted and talented students through the literature.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all those present. The Department of Special Needs of Education, attached to the Faculty of Education, have chosen the title Identification of Gifted and Talented Students Through Literature as the topic. I am Rajika Janoj as the presenter, and these are the co-authors of the research. Let's move into our research. In Sri Lanka, the school system gives attention to children with special educational needs. But it's sad to say that the school system does not pay enough attention to gifted and talented students in the classroom. Why is this? Because teachers and educators think since they are gifted, they are able to be successful on their own. But this is not the case. Why? This is because intellectual development is a dynamic process between the interaction of genetic patterns and environmental opportunities. According to Clark 2008, it was clearly mentioned that the gifted students, like all other students, need challenges presented to them by their educational experience at a level appropriate to their ability and development. But what is actually the problem? According to Lassig 2009, it was seen inadequate curriculum, unsupportive educators, social and emotional difficulties, peer pressure, inadequate parenting causes difficulty for gifted and talented children and adolescents. Due to this, these children may end up as school dropouts. Thus, gifted and talented students should be considered as special educational needs. They need to come under the category of special needs education. Therefore, it is important to identify and support them to develop their full potential in their early years of school. The research that was conducted and is on process. Today's research that we are presenting is just one part of the main in-depth research. The long-term aim of this study is to get an in-depth information on how to adapt and develop screening tools to use in the Sri Lankan context to identify gifted and talented students in primary classrooms. But today's research has two main topics. This is the long-term aim. We would be presenting to you just one part of our research. The two objectives that would be focused on this research is 1. To identify the nature of gifted and talented students. 2. To identify the theoretical models of giftedness. Let's go into our findings and discussions. Firstly, what are the general characteristics of giftedness? When you take generally gifted and talented students, there is positivity by nature. Why do we say that? Because it is considered that children with gifted and talentedness, they have a positivity towards their aptitude, such as explaining their ability to produce original ideas, be self-directed, have original questions and intriguing questions as well. According to Cathcart 2005, it has adapted a list of characteristics, and the list has a wide range of behaviors and abilities, but starts off with the phrase exceptionally able children often. Here there is a comparison with students who are not gifted. For example, students learn basic skills better, with less practice, they're able to handle abstract ideas and so forth. According to Moltzen 2004, it was the characteristics were listed down into 6 major domains, which had the intellectual, creativity, leadership, specific academic, visual and performing arts, as well as psychomotor abilities. The general intellectual abilities were divided into 2 other domains, which were cognitive and affective characteristics. It was also mentioned that schools use a list compiled by Macklin and Reed for defining the characteristics of gifted children. Quoting the author, start quotes, "No one gifted student is likely to possess all the following characteristics. It would be possible for a student to show clear evidence of all or nearly all the behaviors in one category, but few in another." End quote. The 5-factor scale encompasses learning characteristics, social leadership characteristics, creative thinking characteristics, self-determination, and motivational characteristics. So let's look at the theoretical models of giftedness. There are 3 theoretical models of giftedness that was able to be identified in research literature review. The first one is Renzuli's theory, 3-ring conception of giftedness. This was taken from the 1986 model. Here it was based on 3 basic clusters of human traits, being above average, a high level of task commitment, and a high level of creativity. The second one was Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. If you look at the term intelligence, it is referring to a special ability, talent, or skill which allows a person to maximize the potential by building on the particular strength they demonstrate. Thirdly, Gagney's differentiated model of gifted and talentedness. In this model, it was assumed that the 2 terms, gifted and talentedness, are not synonyms and cannot be used interchangeably. The analysis of this model suggested that it is more into a theory of talent development than a definition of giftedness. Further, it was also considered as an extension or a development of Renzuli's 3-ring model of giftedness. So what was the conclusion that we were able to come to? Through the theoretical data analysis, it was found the definition, the characteristics, identification, indentation, and common methods of identification such as tests, achievement tests, nomination, and rating scales. The 3 models that were used in this literature review was Renzuli's 3-ring conception of giftedness, Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and Gagney's differentiated model of gifted and talentedness. Through all of it, It was concluded that the literature review is the primary strategy needed for the development of the indentation of tools for gifted and talented students. These are the references that were used in the research. I hope this was beneficial. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Radhika. I think special need education is another section of the education sector, because the Open University of Sri Lanka established a department for the special need education. This is one and only department in the Sri Lankan education system. So these days, according to our knowledge, most of students, most of schools are consider the talented students, not the gifted students, because they want to increase their results. Why you selected both talented and gifted students for this research?
Good evening, sir. This is K. Swaran. Actually,
Yes,
there are enough literature regarding this gifted and talented student. They are higher dropout. For example, in Sri Lanka, who passed the scholarship, grade 5 scholarship exam, that out of that 100%, only 4 to 6 students getting that university placement. So 94% of gifted and talented students, they are not getting that opportunity. And there are enough literature you can see that they are in that presentation. Still, they are facing challenges because lack of competencies of teachers that the students are getting special conditions. That's what we choose. We choose this title, sir. That's what we took this student with gifted and talented, because there are many cases in.
No, because in your presentation you more attention for the giftedness students.
Yeah,
that's why I asked that questions.
Yeah, that's it, sir. The title is that, sir, because there are still challenges they are facing by this student. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
This is not the question. Actually, according to my experience, some teacher said that some talented and gifted children, they can do within few minutes, they can do their work, and they are created a lot of problems in the classroom. They are facing some problem with them also, but they are not thinking how can this teacher can support for them. Actually, we know multi-level teaching. We have introduced multi-level teaching also. We have that. Teachers should focus of them also, because they can do more, not limited to their learning outcomes. Actually, that we want to do more teacher training for them, I think, according to my experience.
Thank you, Dr. Malani.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this, because still teachers, they don't have that much of capacity, because that is, they want to adapt the curriculum if they want to teach all the students. For example, if one student finish their work within 2 minutes, then they want to give more activities to them. Likewise, low learners or student with special needs and regular student also, they want to do. That's a lapse in Sri Lankan education system, I think.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, there are any questions, we will move the next presentation. That is our last presentation today. ID number 190, a comparative study of the impact of preschool education goals on the overall development of children. Presenter M. Munasinghe. Dr. Munasinghe, over to you.
I am Malini Munasinghe from the Department of Early Childhood and Primary Education. My topic is a comparative study of the impact of preschool education goals on the overall development of children. I would like to give a brief introduction about the preschool education. Early childhood education is the foundation of a holistic development that creates supportive and constructive learning for children of all ages. Especially in early childhood, they need exposure to early stimulation and to learn life skills that will prepare them for school and day-to-day life. Therefore, it is needed to emphasize all aspects of development at the beginning of a person. The study provides a comparative analysis of the aims of preschool education in relation to child development in a selected few countries in the world. If we look at the literature review related to the preschool education, as we know, in 1943, when the Kannangara Committee proposals first showed the necessity for nursery schools, the report of the Special Committee on Education of 1943 stressed on the importance of nursery education further. There was a strong belief that the government paid more attention and provided necessary public support for establishing preschools in Sri Lanka. 1978 Constitution of Sri Lanka declared in Article number 13 that the state shall promote with special care the interests of children and youth to ensure their full development, physical, mental, moral, religious and social, and to protect them from exploitation and discrimination. In Sri Lanka, the state intervened in preschool education only after the establishment of the Children's Secretariat in 1979. The Children's Secretariat gave priority to child growth and development and released in 1986 a report on early childhood care and development, which had been prepared by a committee. In 1990s, the Children's Secretariat was moved to the Ministry of Women's Affairs and then to the Ministry of Social Welfare. Early Childhood Development Standards for Sri Lankan children has mentioned the rationale for setting early childhood development standards for Sri Lankan children. These standards are to relate language and early literacy, cognitive, health and physical, social and emotional, aesthetic and creative art. Objectives of the studies are, the first one is to identify the main aspects of the child development by reviewing the existing curricula of the selected countries. Second one is to examine how far the selected countries have considered the aims of preschool education in the holistic development of the child. Third one is to find out the methods or strategies used to achieve these aims. Fourth one is to identify the difference between the preschool education aims in the selected countries and the preschool education aims in Sri Lanka. And final one is to make comparatively appropriate suggestions to fill the gaps in Sri Lanka's aims for preschool education. If I talk about the methodology of the study, the documentary survey method was used as the research design in the study. And sample of the study was 2 South Asian countries and 2 European countries were selected for this research. Based on the 5 aims mentioned above, the researcher used the following questions to collect information. The first one is, what are the main aspects of the child development? Second one is, what are the concepts that have been considered to develop the aims of preschool education in the selected countries? Third one is, what are the methods or strategies used in the teaching learning process? Final one is, what are the similarities and differences of concepts among the aims of the preschool understudy? Now I have come to the results and discussion. The first question was the main aspects of the child development. As we know, I earlier mentioned that language, early literacy, cognitive, health and physical, social, emotional, aesthetic and creative art. And the second question focused on the concepts that have been considered to develop the aim of the preschool education in the selected countries. This table shows that in Sri Lanka, we have considered the good health habits, good social relationship with others, basic literacy skills, emotional balance, cultural and religious values, creative arts with an aesthetic appreciation mindset. Also, Singapore, they have focused the discovery of the world, social and emotional development, language and literacy, motor skill development, numeracy, aesthetic and creative expressions. Finland, they have focused the personal well-being, reinforcement of considerate behavior and action towards others, and gradual built-up autonomy. And also Sweden mentioned that care, play, formative development, learning, friendship and community, communication and language. Now we can see the preschool education concepts have been built according to the vision of each country. The aims of Sri Lanka and Singapore clearly outline the areas of learning that should be provided to the child. In addition, Singapore has focused on giving opportunities to enter the world in different ways. Although Finland and Sweden demonstrate a depth of presentation of concepts in the process of its content, children have been presented with simple basic concepts to develop the overall development of a child. All countries have used as teaching learning methods or strategies to achieve their aims or objectives. Each country uses different approaches in the teaching learning process. Play is the best method suggested for Sri Lankan preschool children. Other countries have also paid more attention to play as the learning approach for their preschool children. In addition to that, each country has suggested the importance of practical activities. For those activities, various learning methods have been proposed, such as in Singapore, discovery, hands-on learning, physical activities, puzzles, playing with blocks, problem-solving activities. They covered each aspect of the child development. In Sweden, in kindergarten, children have opportunities to explore their creativity and sense of wonder and inquisitiveness, care, formative development, play, learning, social skill, and communication and language process should be seen in context and contribute to the children's total development. Now we can see the similarities and differences of the aim of the selected preschools. The concepts mentioned in the aims of preschool education in Sri Lanka are focused on the basic needs of the child. The other countries have also paid similar attention to the child development. Taken as a whole, each of these countries have sought to provide basic conceptual attitudes, skills and knowledge to the learning experiences of preschool children. All 4 countries are focused preliminary on the systematic development of a child. Each country is focused on learning through play, discovery and observation as well as experiments. However, in presenting the purpose of preschool for preschool children in Sri Lanka, the different aspects of a child have been emphasized. Although there's no such distinction in Finland and Sweden, the basic concepts relevant to the overall development of a child are emphasized on their aims and content. Finland has been increasingly inclined towards children's independence from early childhood onwards, but it is clear that Sri Lanka has given less attention this approach. Sri Lanka and Singapore have paid more attention to integrated subject areas in setting their preschool education aims, while the other 2 countries have not. Sri Lanka, Singapore and Sweden have paid more attention to develop language development, while Finland has paid more attention gradual build up the autonomy of children. These are the conclusions I would like to share with you. Sweden and Finland have preschools with full public sector intervention, while in Sri Lanka, public sector intervention is very minimal. In Singapore, preschool are run by the government and non-government organization. Preschool kindergarten education is compulsory in Finland. It is clear from the aims that each country is focused on developing the basic skill required for the child development. Also, each country uses different approaches to provide learning experiences. Each country has identified the need to provide basic concepts and needs throughout the learning experience of preschool children. It is clear that every country uses learning and teaching methods and techniques that are appropriate for a child's age and maturity. All 4 countries have pointed out that the importance of the play method for young children. Preschool also provide opportunities for activities-based learning. It is more important to provide different activities that suit the different abilities and interests of the children. It is important to focus on the systematic development of child. Each country has focused the systematic development of child. Now the recommendation. It is recommended that the child should focus on developing independently and systematically from an early age. Therefore, a suitable environment should be created in the preschool as well as at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malani Munasinghe. Preschool is a foundation of the school education, and socialization also. They are giving more opportunities at the preschool time. I think this is the Malani Munasinghe discuss another area of the education sector, preschool education. I have one question, Dr. Malani. Your comparison study, you have done the comparison study in the South Asian countries and European countries. I want to know, especially in Sri Lankan preschool education and European education, preschool education, what are the, you identified special differences?
Yes, thank you, sir. Your question is very valuable. Actually, I noticed that our Sri Lankan and Singapore countries, they are focusing on the integrated approach. Actually, other 2 preschools, Sweden and Finland, they are focusing, that is, there's no integrated approach, but they are focusing to achieve the gradual build up the autonomy. And they are giving more opportunities to develop them independently, do a lot of activities. But we are focusing the subject discipline based, but using the integrated approach. But they are not like that. They are giving more opportunities and do independently work with their free environment. They have facilities.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Malini. Any other question? Now is open the forum for the questions.
Here, Dr. Malini, this is related to that overall development means total development, right?
Actually, yes, total development.
Okay.
Each aspect, yes.
Any other questions?
Dr. Malini, do you want to publish the full paper in future? This research?
Sorry?
Miss Gayani, we can't hear properly. Please ask again your questions.
Yeah. Do you want to publish the full paper of this research?
We couldn't hear.
Yeah, we couldn't hear. So, line connection problem, I think you have.
Can you chat that your questions?
Maybe she can put the question in the chat box.
Yes.
Yes, Gayani, please put your question in the chat box. Then Dr. Malini will answer. Yes, she asked, do you hope to publish the full paper?
Yes. Yeah. I already given that full paper. Yes. Okay.
Any other questions?
To Malini, this is not a question. Actually, I want to ask whether the preschool education is not compulsory in Sri Lanka.
Still not. Still, that is not the compulsory in Sri Lanka.
Is there any mechanism that the childhood
I think in future they will consider, the government will consider that one also, because we don't have any general curriculum. We already developed that one with the support from the NI and the Children's Secretariat. And I also involved to that to develop that one. After that, they will consider that point, the compulsory education. It is
Yes, government is already prepared
not.
the national policy also, no, Dr. Malini?
Yes. National policy also. I also supported to do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much for all questions. Today we conducted online session 6 under theme education, IOURS, International Open University Research Sessions. We discussed today several aspects, preschool, special need education, authentic assessment. Likewise, there are so many areas the presenters will cover today. Thank you very much for your presentations. And thank you very much for the audience, all of you. Especially, I want to thank team of the International Open University Research Sessions Organization Committee and all presenters and audience also would like to thanks. Thank you very much again. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.